All right, welcome everyone on September 3rd. It is a beautiful day today because Venus is turning direct. And that just warms my heart because Venus has been in a cycle of over 40 days, just unearthing and remaking our lives. We are truly new people. We've been saying that for the last 3 years, and every cycle brings a new layer of who we get to be as we prepare for Pluto moving into Aquarius in 2024. And Pluto will stay there for 19 years. And so for most of us, that is going to be the bulk of the second half of our lives. And therefore, it's going to be the new normal. And when Pluto moves into Aquarius, things are going to go so fast. The world will shift and change right before our very eyes. If you remember that movie, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, that was like brilliant. And the CGI on that, where that person's mind and the dream space and the memory space just made and remade reality in a flash. I feel like that's what we're going into as we take on more technology and more etheric qualities. So let's savor these moments. The next few months of 2023, let's just savor them, because we're really getting an opportunity to be with our embodiment. And I'm going to talk about one of the beautiful aspects of our embodiment is called the sacred no. And that will be today's transmission that is prompted by Gene Key 40. And so the sun is shining its light on the shadow of exhaustion, the gift of resolve, and the city of divine will. This is holy surrender. And we're going to call this the sacred no in this transmission. So before I get there, if you're listening to this later on the replay, the context in which we're coming to this Gene Key is the context of Venus just turning direct. And then there being, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 celestial bodies in retrograde. And that's planets and Chiron. So I say savor these moments because this teaching on the sacred no and where we're at right now are giving us an incredible opportunity to get really clear with who we are in a body. And I'm presencing that and juxtaposing it against this Pluto going into Aquarius, when we're going to want to, like, society is like leaving its body and entering the mind. Hence, even space travel. Like, who wants to be on Earth anymore? Who wants to be in a body anymore? Let's like freeze ourselves and live forever and travel to Mars and all this stuff that is leaving Earth, leaving the mothership, leaving the mother. And we as priestesses are actually called to restore our relationship to the mother. Because if we do not have our relationship to the mother, we do not have our relationship to our humanity. And I believe we're here to be spirit in a body. So appreciating the density of our bodies. Yeah. And Jimmy Buffett checked out on Friday. Yeah, there's a lot of luminaries heading out. You can feel the change, right? You can feel the change of an age. Their cycles completing. A lot of great masters and teachers are in their third and final act. Yeah. So we're already seeing the ways that the new is coming. So this is in the Ring of Alchemy. And we have a handful of gene keys in this Ring of Alchemy. And this Ring of Alchemy is really how to bring the divine here to Earth. in a human body. So we just came out of what it means to get along in the ring of unity. And now we're into alchemizing. So think of it that way. Think of it as the transmutation of energy. And today's teaching is the transmutation of energy from the word no, the sacred no. Now, the sacred no is different than the regular no, because the regular no could have defensiveness to it. It could have projection and shadow, but this sacred no is the no that comes from your knowing of what's true for you. So exhaustion being the shadow comes from really not knowing what our yes is and what our no is. How many have been through that one? Yeah. Manifesting generators particularly can relate, but also manifestors, because Ra called manifestors super slaves because they just got to work. They forgot their role as the voice and became worker bees. And generators have the capacity to work, and they are the engine that makes things happen. But if a generator is doing things that they do not love, it leads to exhaustion. I once was in a relationship with someone who complained. He was a generator, and he complained all the time of being exhausted. And I couldn't figure it out because I, as a projector, I'm an energy projector. I was like, I have way more energy than you. I can't figure this thing out. So as I probed even deeper into and witnessed, what I saw was a huge shadow of people pleasing. It didn't show up in our relationship. It showed up in his work relationship. And in that work relationship, he had lost his power to create a win-win through his sacred no, to enroll others in a new possibility, and to be clear about what was his to do and what was not his to do. So that starts to give us a little window into how we get exhausted. Because when we're doing the thing that we're here to do, there is something called energy return. Have you noticed that? Like when I'm working, like I just launched the campaign Many Mothers, and some of you are in the class, and I'm really excited. We get to start on Tuesday. Yes, Lola. I think Alexis is in the class. And it's going to be super powerful. And I have been putting in a lot of hours in this project, but I'm not exhausted. And it's like technical shit too, which I do not love, but I'm not exhausted because really I have very good boundaries on myself. I need the most boundaries with myself. Yes, it is 9 o'clock. You will start to wind down. You know, I have discovered through trial and error what depletes me, what causes me more stress, and so practices that I have to enforce on myself or things go off the rails. So there's an energy return to doing the things that you love in the context of the boundaries that you have for yourself. Sometimes we don't really want to believe, because we are spirit in a body, that we have limits. You know, there's all these books out, Limitless, right? Well, what's the part, like when I was in school, the teacher used to say, because I had to go to chapel. I went to a Christian school. I had to go to chapel. And then I had this awesome professor right after chapel. And he would say, so what's the message that wasn't said? That was a teaching right there in duality. So yes, there's a part of us that is limitless. That is called our consciousness. That is the spirit part. And then there's a part of us that decided to have this consciousness squeeze itself into a form, into a body, and it's super uncomfortable, right? Because now it's subject to the rules and laws of World 48. Remember, we talked about that with Gurdjieff. This is this plane. 48 laws and rules govern this place. It's dense, right? It's like we have to slog through shit sometimes. Transformation takes a while. It's incremental. There's linear causation in this field. So spirit in a body, yeah, we're limited. We're limited by our template, but that is actually good news because consciousness is here to discover itself through particularity called you. So sometimes I say to myself, well, I don't really like this aspect of my body or this aspect of my personality. But then I remember, yeah, but consciousness chose this to experience itself as this. And so that's just the way the game is played. I'm appearing, as Byron Katie would say, I'm appearing as this now. This is not who I am. I'm appearing as this now. Isn't that beautiful? So that we can remember that we are here to be limited. We are here to connect our limitless nature and express it through a template. You know, a haiku poem is limited. A sonnet is limited, right? It has rules, it has boundaries. Well, you have to rhyme every other verse. That's limited. Well, I didn't want to rhyme it. I wanted to like say anything I wanted to say. Nope, that's not a sonnet. Nope, that's not haiku. That's something else. So do you get, like, there are ways in which the structure is going to support the magic. And we're going to talk about that in the future with the Gene Key transmission on structure and magic. But here we are in the ring of alchemy. And so this sacred no is affording us an opportunity to be in our template. We can't say yes to everything. And with 7 celestial bodies in retrograde, let's call it the great recalibration. So whoever you were before, you know, maybe you were a person who said yes to everything, or maybe you said, like that would be in my leadership training, that would be a promoter. Like you just can't say no, everything excites you. But what you're really low on is follow through. So a promoter would be high in yes and low in follow through. That person would be low in manifestation, bringing things into form, because there's too many yeses to support the focus of bringing things into form. Some people are total no people, right? So they need to learn the sacred yes. As I'm talking about sacred no, they'll be like, yep, yeah, I got that. But it lives in duality. And so that sacred no and that sacred yes live in duality. And so we get to be discerning about what is true for us. And that's actually, in my world, the definition of prosperity. What is really true for you to do? So we have this great recalibration where we get to rediscover who are we now? What gets to go with us into the future? Imagining a world that's highly sped up and highly mental. What gets to go with you into the future? Some of us in this Venus period have learned so much about relationships and intimacy. It's crazy. And now you are a completely different person. So you get to take stock during these retrograde cycles of, okay, so what's the playing field now? I didn't know how to make agreements before. Now I know how to make agreements, or I was available for that and I'm not available anymore. We're going to talk about this in the sisterhood activation. So let's just presence that there's really no yes. There's no trustable, reliable yes if there's no no. Does that make sense? If you can't say no, then how can you really say yes? I don't trust people whose only words out of their mouth are yes. I know for sure there's going to be a no in there, but I'm going to discover it after the fact and I'm going to get pissed. Like in certain cultures, everything is yes. Have you ever been on a tour in a different culture and they tell you everything is possible, but you know for sure that somewhere you're going to get disappointed. You just don't know where it is. I remember traveling and I would say, like, I'd like to have this without gluten. Okay, yeah, totally. And then I knew, like, these people don't know what gluten is. Right. So they're just saying, yeah, totally, no gluten. But there's like gluten in there, because if you don't know what gluten is and you don't have a culture where you ask, and you don't have a culture where you like can disappoint people, sorry, we only have gluten in here, then we can operate under an illusion. Oh, well, they told me there's no gluten in here, so I'm going to go to sleep and believe there's gluten there's no gluten in here, but then my gut is going to tell me, yeah, there was. And then I can get mad at that other person, but truly I get to be responsible. So when we practice the holy art of saying no, then we open ourselves up to what is our true yes. We also open up ourselves to what is really real. And sometimes it's that the food that I want to eat, I cannot eat. Done. It just is what it is. I was noticing, I was practicing this because I get a lot of ads in my feed or posts in my feed on Facebook around dogs that need to be rehomed. I mean, once I clicked on one thing, now it's like all these dogs. And I really want to have a dog. And I've just been tracking that sacred no. I've been tracking it because I've been bringing in what I know about having a dog and my standards for having a dog and what my future might look like. And so I can tell myself a story that, and part of this could be true, right? Like there's a part where my no is someone else's yes. Someone else will find this dog. And then there's that other part where, to assuage the guilt or maybe the martyrdom that I have, that I should take all the dogs, right? Have you ever had that thought? Like I should just rescue them all. To me, that feels like my young self, and I really honor that young self in me. And the truth is that not all dogs are going to make it. And so the more I make contact with reality, it just makes me want to inhale a little deeper, sink more into my pelvis, because it's sobering. When we give up those patterns, when I give up my really real childlike desire to be the savior of the world, of the animal world, I sink into the reality that I too am human. And I am with the family of life. And that I'm here to do my part. And the greatest contribution I can make is to actually know what my part is. And no one can tell you what your part is. And that comes from a deep understanding that's below the mind. And this brings us to this idea of gnosis. I've been really in the inquiry of gnosis because what I see happening in the collective, and Saturn's going to really support us for the next almost 3 years to really understand a higher level of gnosis, which is a divine truth. that we have access to that is not from our minds, we are going to need to clear out the confusion. There's a lot of confusion in the space, and people think they know things, but it's just confusion. So let me just clear up: when we're not making contact with reality, meaning I'm making up a story in my head around the dogs or my role with respect to the dogs, I've left the realm of reality, and now I'm in the realm of fantasy, making up things to assuage a part of me that doesn't want to just be with what's so. Which is really, I'm going to say it this way, and and again, we're going to go back to that duality teaching, that I'm actually powerless. I am powerless to save the entire species of dogs in San Diego County. Now, as an empowerment coach and leader, I'll be like, no, we're totally like you're powerful. Yes, I am powerful to what it is I choose to direct my drishti toward. And I thought long and hard about, should my drishti go toward animals? My little self is like, yes, let people do their thing. Let's go do animals. And when I'm on Instagram, I follow the people who are doing the animals, and I'm like, bless you, bless you. Because in another lifetime, that would be me. But the truth is, it's not me. The truth is, I'm right here doing this, which means if I'm right here doing this, I am not over there doing that. And so there's a sacredness to that no, because that sacredness in that no opens up this yes over here. So what shadows get confronted in you? This is a question to ask yourself. What shadows get confronted in you when you are given the opportunity to say, no, it's not mine to do in this moment anyway? I'll present some of them, the shadows I've said of martyr and savior, playing God. So thinking you know for someone else what they should do. Needing to be needed. That one's was a huge part of the matrix running for me. Needing to know or have access or be in control of other people. Needing to know it all. So, because no kind of takes you out, right? No takes you out. If I'm a kind of yes, or I'm a protesting yes, or I have to be talked into it, I still have there's some pull I have there. If I say, no, I'm not going to that dinner party, well, I'm off the thread now, right? I'm not on the thread anymore. I don't know what's going on. I can't control conversations, or I can't know. It confronts our people pleasing. Oh, gosh, I know they want me to do this. I don't want to do it, but I know they want me to do it. And we don't really know that they want you to do it oftentimes, because we haven't been in the conversation saying, I'm feeling like you really want me to do this. Is this true? But then what opens up, if we have the courage to harness our sacred no, what opens up for us? I think that the sacred yes opens up for us. And also the ability to stay in right relationship opens up with us. Because how much damage do we really do when we say yes and we really mean no? Or we mean, I don't know yet. I don't know yet. That's actually the truth. I don't know yet. Can I get back to you? That sounds like a great idea, but I don't know. I need to check in. And it depends on your authority in human design. Some people might need longer time. Other people have just a feeling that's immediate and they already know. That's beyond the scope of this conversation, but what else opens up is your ability to stay in right relationship, the sacred yes. Your energy and your time opens up, which really what we've said before, and this is important for Pluto going into Aquarius, that your attention is your hottest commodity. It's what everybody wants. So make sure you own it. And the only way you own your attention is with the capacity to say yes when it's yes and no when it's no, and I don't know in between, and negotiate. Not that, but I would be willing to do that. And these are skills that I'm presencing. But we're just talking about, what does it open up for you? What does it give you access to? It gives you access to your focus. It gives you access to manifestation. If you're spread too thin, chances are you don't have a lot to show for it. And at some point, that becomes important to you. There was a part of where I wanted to be spread thin because I was kind of trying everything out. I was sampling, I was discovering truths about myself and others, or systems. But more and more, one of the things that Venus has taught me in this retrograde cycle is like, nope, that's not what you do. That's not in your wheelhouse. Yeah, you know about it, but not in your wheelhouse. Like, I'm not here to become a human design teacher, just not. I love human design. I use it. I use the gene keys. I use Enneagram, all these systems I use, but I am not here to become a teacher of that thing. So Venus has given me a really deep clarity of this desire to focus on what it is I'm here to do. And that didn't come through 5 years ago. That didn't come through 3 years ago. That didn't come through a year ago. That came through now. And all the experiences of before have refined that. And that will happen for each one of you, because we're here to focus that energy, that life force energy that is moving through us in a particular way. I think also what opens up is your discernment is sharpened. You become ninja at discernment. That's something that you really want to keep in the back of your mind. How is your discernment? Because when you have shadow that's determining, when you have guilt and martyrdom or need to be needed or people pleasing, when you have those shadows online, you actually cut yourself off, and you cut the other person off from right relationship, truth, and discernment. So if those qualities, those shadows are still hanging out, and they're going to rear their head all the time, because as we expand, we're going to bump up against the edges of, oh yeah, I got down the people pleasing over here, but I didn't get down the people pleasing over here. So we're going to have new opportunities, but that's going to sharpen our muscle and our discernment. And then here's the last thing I'll say about it is that, and I noticed this yesterday, it's just kind of a weird moment, and hopefully I can articulate it in words, but I was closing the blinds to the west facing wall, west facing window, and I saw the sun setting, the incredible color of the shades of indigo and orange. You know that look, don't you? And those of us, I have access to the ocean, so I'm always looking at the sunset. And I caught that sunset, and I could cry in this moment. So I know that there's something there. Or I caught it and I stood there for a moment, and I just was with that color in the night. And it wasn't lost on me that it's that moment that's more precious than anything I will ever do. It's that moment. And that moment happens in the most surprising of places. I was on the phone with someone, and we were just sitting this person had gone through a gnarly Venus retrograde. And we were sitting in silence for a moment, and her baby made a sound. And after I got off the phone, I just wept because I was like, this is it. It doesn't get any better than this. Or let's like, how can it get any better than this? And this is the moment of infinity. It's this moment. So for me, the sacred no and the discernment and all the practices delivered me to time that I could actually catch that there was a change happening in the sky, or that I could sit with someone in silence for a few seconds as she came on the other side of that intense Venus retrograde, where she said something like, you know, Kenlin, all relationships with others are really relationships with the self. I did not teach her that. That came from gnosis. That came from inside. And so let me wrap up the second piece. When our mind thinks we see something and we are blaming someone else, we are not seeing clearly. And that was part of this person's Venus retrograde. And if you knew the situation, which it's not for me to tell, but if you knew the situation, you and I might feel very justified in having a story about that other person. And on one level, on the human level, we have to take action on the basis of that story. But to really get the teaching, to go the next cut in your spirituality, you got to see through it. There is no other. So to practice the art of mysticism, which is inside of it is this art of gnosis, is to rid yourself of confusion. And confusion is the duality inside the matrix. Yes and no, this and that. And come to oneness. And some of the very simple practices I've said before, like in Byron Katie's The Work. How is this you? Why is this showing up in your field? A friend of mine had some big things stolen from her house. And she called me when it happened. She was really angry. And I felt violated. And if you've ever had anything stolen from you, I had something small stolen from me, and I did feel violated. It was crazy how that got triggered in me. But then a week later, I asked that friend, how are you doing? And she's like, well, you know what? I used to steal when I was younger. I stole from my dad. I stole from stores. I stole here and there. So she's like, you know, in her world, she was like, yeah, that's my karma. It's instead of karma is a very, very complex subject, but how about we look at it this way? It's in my field. As outside is so inside, as above is below, as below is above. So mystics, instead of looking at life as separately real, mystics look at life as one. So what is it showing you inside of your hologram about you? One of the teachers I was listening to yesterday, his name's Michael Smith, and he said, the truth is always, or usually most often, uncomfortable. So if your truth is making you comfortable because you're having someone to point it at, you are in the matrix and you are infusion. So let yourself get uncomfortable, not as a self-flagellating, I need to beat myself up, because the flesh is not bad, but we are here to see through all the way. And so let's end with that, and remembering the gift of our sacred no, as we embody spirit in a body in particular form that is showing up as you, so that you can live the fullest expression of your template.